Hello, everyone. You are here with the birthplace of Country Music Museum. We are here tonight for our 5th virtual speaker series of the year. Our May speaker series, we're very excited to have our friend Pat Jarrett here with us. But before we get started, I just want to give a couple of sort of housekeeping things for everyone. One is, if you don't mind during the presentation to keep yourself muted and your video closed, that would be great, because that way it will only focus on Pat as our speaker, and therefore there won't be any distractions. If you do have any questions that you would like for us to that you would like to share with Pat, please put them into the chat, the Zoom chat. We will be keeping an eye on those throughout the presentation. And then at the end, we will be opening it up to share those questions with Pat, and he can answer your questions then. So please, any and all questions, just put them in the chat and we will be keeping an eye out on them. You will have seen that we have a couple other virtual speaker series that are advertised for June and July. In June, we are going to have filmmaker Beth Harrington, who was the director of the documentary about the Carter family, The Winding Stream. She is going to be here with us screening her short 22-minute film about an immortal musician in the vein of Jimmy Rogers, and doing a discussion afterwards. That's going to be interesting. And then in July, on July 6th, we have Tim Duffy, who is the photographer for our current special exhibit, Our Living Past. So keep an eye out for those two. They are going to be a couple of great programs coming up. But we are very excited about the program tonight. And finally, the other thing, Tony has put some information in the chat, and she will put it back in there at the end in case anyone wants it, about how you can support the museum so that we can continue to do free or low-cost programming like this, and also how you can engage with us on social media. And you can also go back and watch some of our past virtual speaker series on our website, so that link will be there too. But jumping straight into it with Pat Jarrett. So Pat is currently the interim director of the Virginia Folklife Program. He has been a photographer and filmmaker there for over a decade, working with the Virginia Folklife Program to record all the wonderful and sometimes weird things that go on across the state of Virginia. Pat is also a musician, and plays music in a band. And I can't remember, Pat, what is the name of your band again?
I've got 3 bands. It's crazy.
Well, what are the names? Tell us the names real quick.
Your viewers might be interested in my traditional jazz band. It's called Boxcar Speakeasy, and we're here in Stanton, Virginia. And I play in a couple other fun bands with some guys who play, rock and roll covers. And I've got an original heavy metal band called Hemeyer. So those are all. That's what we do.
Eclectic tastes, so that's good. But we worked with Pat last year with he and John Lohman at the time, who was at the Virginia Folklife Program then, for our special exhibit last year that opened up a week and a half before the pandemic hit. Real Folk, which was focused in on the apprenticeship program at Virginia Folklife. And a lot of the images, I'd say the majority of the images in that exhibit were Pat's images. And he's going to show you a few of those in a minute. But now I'm just going to hand it over to Pat, and we're going to start with a conversation, and then he's also going to share quite a few videos with us of some of these wonderful festivals across the state of Virginia. But first, Pat, for those of our audience who don't know, what does the Virginia Folklife Program do, and tell us about your role there?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me, Renee. I'm so happy to be here, and especially since our in-person programming, that was the first project that we collaborated on directly. I mean, we put it up, and a couple days later, everything had to come down. It had to shut down. If you want, I can share the photos from the gallery. I thought it was really beautiful. Let's see here, if you don't mind. This is in the wonderful gallery space over there at the museum, and I'll just, kind of click through these. So these are photographs and objects from the Virginia Folklife Apprenticeship Program, which is just one of the programs we do. It's probably I'd say it is the longest running that we do here at the Folklife Program, where we honor master artists by giving them support and pairing them with an apprentice to carry on traditional folkways throughout the Commonwealth. And that's everything from your traditional, you think about folkways and you think of basket makers and banjo pickers, but we also have, one of the premier danbao players in Northern Virginia. That's who you see here, Nam Phong. And that is typically called the sound of Vietnam. It is a monochord instrument, a one-stringed instrument that is just beautiful and delicate, and we're so happy to have the diversity of traditions. Here you can see some of the other photographs. The color ones are mine, but the black and white photos were made by another photographer, Morgan Miller, and he did some beautiful work and printed them in a dark room, and he was very analog with it, and the tonal range and the film grain really come through. I love his work. And mine is kind of the polar opposite. It's highly saturated color. You can see all those colors on the wall there. But we were so happy, Renee, to collaborate on this. But in a nutshell, what we do at the Virginia Folklife program is we identify, support, and celebrate all of Virginia's living traditions. And that's everything from, this is a salt maker, apprentice, the corn husk doll making, it spans the gamut. So, but we also support public events. We support stages in festivals, and we support artists and recording projects. We've done recording projects of our own. We've done film projects. There's just a lot that we do. If it's traditional arts or if it's a living tradition, we're interested in it. And especially in COVID, how we support artists is very different. We have to rethink a lot. But I like to think that we're nimble enough and creative enough to make things work,
Well, you all do really good work, and we so enjoyed working with you all on that exhibit. And like you said, it shut down for 3 months, but we were very lucky that we were able to reopen during it and have it here for about 2.5 months after that. And of course, for anyone who is interested in that exhibit, we also have the virtual tour that we created soon after we closed on the museum's website, where you can get a virtual tour of that exhibit if you missed seeing it or if you don't live around us. But it will give you a really good insight into the kind of things and the kind of traditions that Virginia Folklife supports. Mm-hmm. And when you were at that time, you were doing a lot from the photography and filmmaker side of things, but now you are sort of in a much broader role.
Well, that's the thing. In August, John Lohman, the director of the Virginia Folklife program for the last couple decades, stepped off to do his own, to form his own nonprofit, the Center for Cultural Vibrancy. And we partner with them on projects as well, because it's not like I forgot who John is, and he still does amazing work. But I've taken over the head of the Virginia Folklife program for now, and we're luckily in a time where we're limited in the public events we can do. Digital media such as video and photo have become really integral parts of our public programming. During this, we started actually this year in January, we started our own speaker series called Uncovered from the Vault of the Virginia Folklife program, where we bring on artists and we talk about a certain performance, and because we've got tapes, we've got piles of tapes that that came from our digitization suite, which I have moved to my spare bedroom upstairs. And I've been just going to town on a bunch of old tapes from, I'd say, everything from the early 90s to the late aughts. So around 2008, 2009 is when I started. It is kind of when it started to go towards the digital trend of things, but we still have a lot of tapes. So what I do is I bring on an artist, I show a little bit of footage, kind of like what we're going to do tonight, and then we talk about it. And that's been going pretty well, and that's the last Tuesday of every month. Last month we had Emily and Martha Spencer
Right up the road from here.
Definitely. And I love that conversation. They're such a great pair, and they can really hold a room. So I was, I love doing anything with the White Top Mountain Band,
Well, and, it's interesting. Martha Spencer was in the Real Folk exhibit, a picture of her in that. She is also in our current special exhibit, Our Living Past, photographed by Tim Duffy at the Music Maker Relief Foundation. So there's all these connections. But like you said, the program tonight, we're focusing in on festivals across the state of Virginia. You're going to share some never before seen footage with us, some hidden gems, but just give us an idea of sort of the variety of festivals that are found in Virginia, where they're found, what types of festivals, that kind of thing.
Renee, I am constantly surprised about the diversity and number of festivals in this Commonwealth. Everything from, you got the big ones that everybody I think knows about, but if not, you've got the Galax Old Fiddlers Convention. You've got the Richmond Folk Festival. It's a huge festival. You've got some big craft shows, Fall Foliage Art Festival here in Waynesboro that draws tens of thousands. You've got the Gordonsville Fried Chicken Festival, and you've got, something like an oyster roasting festival. Unfortunately, I've never attended the oyster festival because I'm deadly allergic to them.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to go near that.
No, I'm so jealous because it looks like such a good time. They bring out just like cauldrons of roasted oysters. They put them on an open fire, and it's usually in the autumn. I think it's October, November out there around Reedville, and it looks like such a great thing. But I just wrote down off the top of my head a bunch that they're in the state. We've got Bhangra Festival in Northern Virginia. We've got a Cambodian New Year celebration, Mongolian New Year. There's a lot of, in Northern Virginia, we have many, many immigrant populations. Including, for example, there was a couple of years there, and it might still be true. I need to double check it. That Mongolian was the third most spoken language in the Arlington School District, which is incredible.
That's wild. It's
incredible, but we're lucky to have that kind of culture. We're lucky to have that here, and we've got of course, music festivals. Piedmont, John Jackson Piedmont Blues Festival started in 2019 over in Rappahannock County. We've got all sorts of fiddlers conventions, big and small. You've got Elk Creek. You've got Rockbridge. You've got other festivals like Red Wing that here in the Valley that's more of your standard music festival, but it's tied to roots music. And then you've got things like the Daniel Boone Blacksmith Party, which goes deep on blacksmithing. And I was invited to that a couple of years back, and that was just wonderful. And this is Daniel Boone, I believe the 17th. And he is a descendant of Daniel Boone, the great, the frontiersman. Mm. And he's got a little workshop over in Louisa. And in February, he has this, it's like a swap meet blacksmith party. There's an auction, there's barbecue, and three times on that day, at 9 o'clock, at noon, at 5 o'clock, they launch anvils straight up in the air with black powder.
And I think we're going to get a chance to see that later. Am I right?
Yeah. That's it. It's pretty amazing. But so we've got festivals all over this, and there's some small ones. I'm working now with a group here in Stanton to try to promote busking on the streets of downtown, and I believe that's gonna be a loose festival. But it's, what is a festival but a community coming together to celebrate something, food, a tradition, an area, a craft. So that's what we got.
Well, and this isn't something I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, Pat. Yeah. What is the weirdest festival that you can think of in Virginia? Or the most, not weird, because obviously there's no judgment attached to that, just the sort of most unusual.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. We say weird festivals, but weird to whom?
Yeah.
Because I think Dan Boone's blacksmith party was kind of unbelievable. Like I heard about it from Pearl Samahel. He was a master artist who lived at Twin Oaks Community in Louisa. He was a chair maker. He had a great shop. He said, "Why don't you come? This is a great thing." And he told me that Daniel Boone's direct descendant had a blacksmith party and it's next door, and it was just hard to believe. Like, wait, you're kidding me here. But that's normal out there,
Yeah.
And for me, I think one of the ones that made me feel so not out of sorts, but hard to believe I was still in Virginia was the Mongolian New Year celebration. And I was up at I think it was Patrick Henry Elementary School in Northern Virginia. It looked like my elementary school, same era, mid-century or early 20th century architecture. And in the gymnasium, they constructed a yurt and put up banners, and there was traditional Mongolian wrestling happening at center court. And to me, that is, I find that the most, I wouldn't say weird, but absolutely wholly unique in the way that, you're used to seeing this tradition on the steppes of Mongolia, the vast grasslands. And this is in a tiny gym with bad lighting. and to me, I think it's pretty beautiful, like there's something that's like, yes, let's celebrate what people have brought here. Let's celebrate these new traditions because they're now in Virginia and they're making it happen.
Right.
And I was just honored to be there, but also I felt completely out of sorts.
Yeah.
So it's, and if we're talking about out of state weird festivals, I would have to say Fasnacht in Helvetia, West Virginia,
What's that one?
Oh my goodness, that is, you'll have to talk to Emily Hilliard over at West Virginia Folk Life about it. She's done great work on the subject. But that is, it's a pre-Lenten celebration. It's a little Swiss village settled by Swiss immigrants. And what they do is they get together and they have a rich meal, full of, sausage and potatoes and all the stuff that'll stick to your ribs because it's in the middle of winter and it's cold as heck. And then there's a parade, a lantern parade down the street where people wear masks that they've made to scare off the winter.
Uh-huh.
They go to the dance hall and have a square dance under Old Man Winter in effigy. And at midnight, they cut down Old Man Winter and throw him on the bonfire.
Awesome.
It is spooky. It's in a town with a population of right around 85, I think. Uh-huh. But hundreds of people come to it. And the one year I went, I got snowed in. Actually, one of the years I went, I got snowed in. And that was wild. Meeting strangers that became close friends, and that's a whole other story. But that's not Virginia. That's West Virginia.
Well, when you were talking about the Mongolian New Year, it made me think of when I lived in Swindon in England. Every summer they had the Indian Mela, so a big Indian culture festival in the city park, and it does have a disconcerting feeling because while you're in the middle of it, you're being sort of immersed a little bit in some of the cultural traditions of the Indian subcontinent. Amazing food, amazing smells, arts, crafts, all sorts of things. But you're also still in the middle of a modern English town, and it does have a weird feeling when you're doing something like that. But a few of what's really exciting is we've had a few people put in the chat some festivals that they've attended or that they're thinking of. Cool. A Harry Potter festival in Stanton.
Oh yeah. I can vouch for that. Oh my God, it's crazy. I can't wait for that to come back. It's 20 or 30,000 people flooding downtown Stanton and child wizards everywhere, and that's pretty funny.
Yeah, and I know that there's also, this isn't in Virginia, but I think it's in Kentucky. There's a Jane Austen festival, which I really want to go to one day because I'm obsessed with Jane Austen. So
that's right up your alley. You got to go.
Yeah, but someone mentioned the Ramp Festival, which of course you're going to talk about later, and it's coming up very soon at White Top, so just around the corner from where we are now.
It's on this year too. This happened the 16th.
Someone mentioned how incredible the food was at the, how do you say that again? The Fosnight Festival. And then someone mentioned the Wood Booger Festival in Norton, Virginia. Have you been to that?
Nope, I'm going to write that down. If they can,
I know.
That is Wood Booger Festival.
For those of you who are not from Southeastern America, wood boogers are big feet, or they're Bigfoots. So we call them wood boogers around here. So the Wood Booger Festival in Norton, Virginia, which I definitely want to look up too. So we've had a few of our audience have obviously been to some good festivals in the state also.
Certainly one that I'm going to travel to on the note of wood bookers. There's a Mothman Festival.
Yes, that would be good.
Point Pleasant, West Virginia, right on the Ohio River. Mm-hmm. And that I haven't been able to make
creepy though.
Yeah, I love it. That's my jam. I love it.
Well, you mentioned, we talked that there's specific interests seen at these festivals: food, craft, music. Sometimes there's a combination of a bunch of those different things, and then also that there's a lot of immigrant-led traditional festivals. What about indigenous people? So, because there's a lot of indigenous tribes in Virginia. What do we see on that front?
Certainly. You've got powwows all over the state. I've been lucky enough to attend the Chickahominy powwow in September. I believe that's when that happens. And that's a really big, that's a big dance. And there's great food, there's great craft. That's on tribal land. When I go to a powwow, I tread lightly, because not that the other festivals I don't, but there's an element of sacred to the powwows, to the dance. Some dances I can't photograph, and I'm okay with that. I respect all the rules, but one of the sweetest festivals I've been to, powwow, was in Amherst at the Monacan Nation. Mm-hmm. And that is, I just love the land there. It's the rolling hills of Amherst County, and it's kind of tucked in a holler where there's a church, and it's earnest. It's the food is amazing. I think that might be my best draw to that, because the food is so delicious. And I've been lucky enough to attend and make some pictures and talk to some wonderful people. But, whereas at the Chickahominy powwow, it draws in dancers from all over the Commonwealth and beyond, the Monacan powwow might only have 10 or 20 dancers total, but they're very committed and they're very supported. And I don't know, there's something about a small festival with fantastic drumming, a small powwow with fantastic drumming that resonates with me.
Yeah, that intimacy of being one of the few that's actually seeing that wonderful tradition at play. So I can imagine. Well, before we jump into some of your videos and some of the things that you want to talk about those, like I said, we're going to be looking at some never before seen footage, some of the things that have been up on your shelves but not released yet. And we've talked a bit about the work that y'all are doing to support artists, especially, master artists, apprentices. But what you're also doing is this documentary work that is saving and preserving these traditions for posterity. So why is this documentary work so important on top of that just like day-to-day, like supporting artists and being who they are and doing what they do?
Sure. Something that has always resonated with me. I come from a journalism background, and I studied it. It's a calling that I had, and for that, it's not so much the making of the picture or the meeting of the person, but it's the fact that it's the newspaper of record. This will go on microfiche somewhere, and somebody 40 years down the road might look it up or might go in a PDF archive and read about it and be taken back in time. So, you add time to any document and it changes it implicitly. And for me, I was just talking to a good friend today about, colloquially, she was saying she was hanging out with her old lady friends. And I said, oh yeah, I got an old lady and old man friends, because they've lived a life. They practice their trade, they practice their craft, they make music, and they get to this point in their life and they have such a deep knowledge that only comes with time. And so to document that on that end of things is so important to market. It's like, yes, this person has put a lifetime of work in, they should be honored. Their photograph, this recording, these videos should be saved. I think of Spencer Moore from down in Chilhowie, I believe is where Spencer Moore was. And John Lohman has told me the story many times. This is one of the first recordings I heard when I came to the Virginia Folklife program. But John Lohman went down to Spencer Moore's cabin with an audio recorder and a photographer and said, hey, would you mind playing a couple songs? And recorded him playing on his acoustic guitar in his cabin. And the recording is so clear and it's so straightforward, but I connect with it. Mm-hmm. And it really his songs are so emotional and they really hit you. And that recording continues on even if the person that freezes that in time. And it's like, listen to this, listen to how powerful they were. I think of that with Maggie Ingram too, the Maggie Ingram and the Ingramettes in Richmond. John had the insight to record them with Mother Maggie, kind of at her, right as she was starting to develop memory issues, and her voice is so powerful on this recording. It's clear as a bell. And so to have a proper recording of this and of these voices carries them through and breathes life. And to this day, the legendary Ingramettes have continued on past Mama Maggie's death, and they have really done amazing work. And I would highly suggest following the legendary Ingramettes and listening to the album. Take a look in the book. They blow me away every time.
Well, I will definitely do that. And I think we were they featured in the Real Folk exhibit? I can't remember if they were there or not.
They are all over our programmings. We had Cheryl Maroney Yancey as a master artist and as an apprentice in our program. And I'm trying to think if we had Mama Maggie in there. I don't think we did. I don't think we ever got her to do a master. I don't think we ever were able to get her in the apprenticeship program, but we've worked with them so much.
Right. Well, that'll definitely be something to look up. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand it over to you, Pat, because now you're going to take us through some of these recordings that you have and talk about the festivals that you've chosen to show us tonight. And I'll hand it over to you and jump back in once you've gotten through them.
Yeah, sounds good. What I'll kind of do is I'll set it up a little bit, and then I'll introduce a clip. Most of these clips are a couple minutes long, but it's so worth seeing. So this first one I'm going to show is from the 2015 Galax Old Fiddlers Convention. This year, a couple years prior to this, they made a Guinness World Record for having the most mandolin players playing at the same time. And pardon me, they got the record, and then there's a festival in Greece that beat them by like 30, right? And so they said, well, we're Galax, we're not going to be outshined, we're going to take it back. So what I have here is a short little film that I put together back in 2015 showing the world record attempt. And we'll go to that. And hold on just one second. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go over there and figure out where we are. Sorry, I got too many videos open at once. Here we go. We got it. All right, forgive me. Here we go. We're going to share the screen now. All right, strap in. Here we go.
I got the idea because I saw ukulele people trying to do it. I don't think they got their record. But I was like, someplace like Galax, we could get into something like this because it's funny. And because we all play music. Everyone can play a mandolin. I mean, at least for those kind of songs, those easy songs, so why not? So I tried it. It worked once, and I just gotta hope it'll work again.
Why don't you go on the mic? Thank you. There's my rhythm player, Ralph. Hey, brother, how are you? Good. It's George, is that right?
I think that's so fun too, that like common vernacular, the fact that we all have a basic tune, and that full-time professionals and hotshots can just, you could put in Thelonious Monk licks or Jimi Hendrix licks or Bill Monroe licks or whatever you want. You can soup it up. You can play it as a raga. You can play it as a jig, but you know it's still a alto part. Phenomenon here that the sound man told me would happen, and he said even if we play acoustic we'll get a weird feedback loop going in here because the cement stairs and the metal roof, and it's just fascinating. If you study sound dynamics and the physics of sound, I mean, there's scientists that study this stuff all the time, but it's fascinating.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's actually amazing that the first song we did, I thought we'd just do them old time style, just play it for a long time and really relish it and make sure we had plenty for Guinness. And we played alto part for a long time. And after a couple minutes, we started this second ghost band in the ceiling. And then the people in the back started following that band. Because everyone has good ears. So many people are really good musicians here. We ended in like waves, and then we did Cripple Creek was the shortest one, and it was just tight all the way through.
2, 3, 4.
I think we're in some good figures. Let's go look.
Pretty cool, huh?
Cool.
Yeah. It's funny. That was during, the Galax Old Fiddlers Convention. I think that was on a Tuesday, like a Tuesday during the day. And something I wanted to say is sometimes at these festivals, you don't know whether to pay attention to the main thing on stage or what's happening in the off hours and back in the camps and whatnot. And with Galax, I really don't know which is better, but I know that it was planned when the stands were going to be empty, so they could all sit in the grandstands. So everybody came out from the camp and filled up and played it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and actually, we can jump to the Richmond Festival, but that's also like I've got a couple clips from Richmond, one from a stage, but one is from back at the hotel. And the thing with the hotel, the Richmond Folk Festival, is on Saturday night of the festival, all the artists go back to the artist hotel. And of course, what happens when you get a bunch of artists together? You get some crazy jams. And I've seen some pretty weird combinations. I've seen a Tuvan throat singer play with a boogie woogie piano player. I've seen a bunch of crazy stuff, and I think I'm going to show the National Heritage Fellow. Let's see here from Richmond, the Balakiate Jam with. Well, I'll just show you. This happened at the 2019 Richmond Folk Festival. And this is, of course, put on by the National Council for the Traditional Arts, which was headed for the longest time by Joe Wilson from Freeze, Virginia. So there's always a Virginia connection, But this is really interesting. I'm bad at pronunciation. Bala Kuyate is an African. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to let the video speak for itself. So here we go. Oh, not that. Hold on. Here we are. we'll come. I hate to cut that off right when it was getting good, but that could go on for a while. I just love that this West African bellefonte player, master of the art, got together with that band at that moment. You know, it was like, hey, let's play together. And they, I mean, you can tell it was improvisation. I wanted to wait for that tempo change because that's something you see all the time. These jams show up, something pops up, they're playing together, they're feeling the rhythm, and then they adapt on the spot. Yeah, and that's something you see at festivals, and I love.
And I think that, I'm guessing, I mean, I have obviously not been to as many festivals as you have, but I guess that's something that one of the great things about it is that it's bringing together all these different sort of artisans and artists and musicians and giving them the chance to interact with each other and maybe create something a little bit different just by chance. And it's not all scheduled and meant to be one specific way. There's a lot of interaction going on there.
Certainly. And I got to say, sometimes it's just a matter of, if you're planning a festival, something that I watched John Lohman do so many times is get the right elements together and just wait for it to turn into something magic. He had that foresight that he could see when players were going to have some magic together, and he really made that happen. And that's a talent that I do not have yet, but I'll stick to making pictures and I'll learn about it and making that magic happen.
So what do you have for us next, Pat?
Well, I think I'd like to go with, one of the tapes that I've digitized. This is from back in 2005. Because, a lot of these festivals come together around communities, fandoms, musicianship, whatever. But at the Virginia Folklife program, for the past 20 years, we've thrown a Virginia Folklife Apprenticeship Showcase in Charlottesville. And that is to mark the graduation of the previous year's class and to introduce the new class of masters and apprentices. And that's usually in Charlottesville, but it brings people from all over. And it's a really great time. So what I have here, this is a really special little slice that I found in our on the tape that was not labeled too well, didn't have this labeled. But this is, who do we have here? This is Jack Branch, Mike Seeger, and Elton. I'll come back with his name. He was a steel drum maker.
Elton Williams.
Thank you. I'm so written down. Renee, I am so bad with names. I'm so sorry. No, Elton Williams, and they were all masters in that 2005 class in disparate crafts, but here they came together to do a little jam, and it picks up right as they're ending a kind of a standard, like a slow, like I feel like they're feeling each other out, and then Jack just kind of rips into it. And so that's what we're going to share. So here we go. Here we are.
I got the other two in my mind. You know a song called Red Jeans?
I'll just stop it there. But I just think that's some magic, you know. Like when do you ever get to hear? When have you ever heard Mike Seeger play with a steel drum player with a country ham maker on fiddle? You know, it's there's something about that, and that's what comes together at the Virginia Folklife Apprenticeship Showcases. Is you get all sorts of cross pollination, you get all sorts of creativity flying around, and that's magic in its own right, and that's the beauty of coming together as a community, and that's what I've been missing most this entire year.
Yes, I bet you'll be glad when you can start having those showcases again, because again, that was something we talked about maybe having during the Real Folk exhibit, which we weren't able to do. And actually, one of our audience just said something which I think is cool. It's cool to find. She writes, Natalie Gorby writes, it's cool to watch them find a way to communicate within the instrument so that they're sort of weaving themselves together at some point. There's a moment where it's disparate and then it comes all together, I think.
And if you're a musician, you can see it click. You know, you can hear them listening. You go, okay, yeah, I can work with that. And yeah, thanks, Nat. That's a good observation.
And what was cool for those of you who are from around the Tri-Cities is that Jack Branch was based down here in this area. And like you said, he was a master of country ham curing, but he was also a luthier, am I right? Of fiddles?
Yeah, yes, he was. That's so it's not out of we were honoring him for the ham, but you know.
Yeah. But he had talents in many areas.
Like most of these people that we work with do is the thing. You know, you find one of these players and they're like, oh, I also do this. Oh, I also do this. Or the guy who builds houses or hews logs can also really, you know, rip a rhythm guitar. You know, it's incredible. I love it. I love the talent that I see and I'm exposed to on the daily. It's pretty amazing.
It's a lucky position to be in. But what are you going to share with us next?
Well, you know, I did talk about the Ramp Festival, and I would really like to show you this little bit of footage. This is from John Lohman. He did a lot of documentation before I got there, and he really had an eye for it. And the thing about this particular Ramp Festival is that there was in the ramp eating contest, they had it went to sudden death in the championships. Now, there is a prize for winning first place.
And is it how many? Is it whoever eats the most ramps?
Whoever eats the most ramps in between 30 and 45 seconds. I can't remember which one, because runoff rules are different, of course.
All right. And for those audience members who might not know, what is a ramp?
Oh, a ramp is a wild onion. It looks like a spring onion, but it tastes sharper. It's like a cross between garlic and onion, but ramped up, if you will. So to eat these things raw takes some fortitude. And you know, at this festival, they always bring in great musicians. At the end of this tape, Wayne Henderson, Thornton Spencer, and Ronnie Stoneman are on stage.
Oh, wonderful!
Which I can tune into that later. But the thing is, this runoff is not even for the first prize. This runoff is for second prize. So these guys are going into, I think this is the second or third heat, and they are putting their bodies through punishment for $50 and a bottle of Scope. That is the prize. So I'm gonna switch over. This is from around 2005, and we got this going. So here we go. This is in Damascus, Virginia.
If you had ate this many the first time, you'd been a winner. Get ready.
Remember, eat all the white.
Go. Remember to eat all the white.
All the white. All the white. We could have had winners, eat all the white. I got a red shirt, looks like elbows shaking out there.
10 seconds. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, one, stop. I don't know, it looks awful close again.
We'll leave them here. We won't move, put them up.
Well, at least we're not doing it.
You know, you guys are costing us money. We're just gonna sell these extra ones.
They think it's okay this year. Last year, they were
All right. So that was what a 30-second ramp eating festival looks like, and you can see those guys. The guy in the red shirt specifically, he was hurting. He was hurting pretty bad, but it all came out in the end, and it's a fun time. You know, you get to celebrate. You know, what's there, the natural. You know, they grow kind of wild, but people cultivate them, and so it's celebration of an area, and it's that video, along with many other of these, will be on our YouTube if they're not already up there. So I would highly suggest going over to our YouTube channel where we have a lot of these clips. You can watch it in full. It's a half-hour video fully, which is about the length of a tape. And we've got also full concerts from a lot of these festivals. We are VA Folklife on YouTube, but you should be able to search Virginia Folklife Program and get us. And I'd suggest you poke around on there because there's a lot of really fun stuff that we've put up.
Well, and Pat, if you don't mind, someone's put up a question, but I think it's worth doing it now because it's specific to the Ramp Festival. And she asked, again, this is Natalie asking, how did the Ramp Festival start and why?
That I don't know, unfortunately, Nat. I'll get back to you on that one. I'd have to look it up, and I'm sorry, I don't know the specifics on that one.
Do you know how long it's been around, approximately?
Oh, geez, a bunch of years. But I'm sorry, I don't have that fact in front of me. I was too focused on getting that footage, the right heat down, so I didn't. But I can look that up and get back to you on that.
I'll do a quick lookup. I'll look it up while you're going ahead, and then we can maybe answer at least some of it in a minute.
Sure. Well, and it's right about 8:00. Should I walk through? Because some of the other things I talked about that I like to show you is I've got some photos from the Mongolian New Year festival that was just amazing, and I've got that blacksmith party anvil launching.
I think we definitely need to share those with people.
All right. So we'll do that. I guess first I'll go with this anvil launch, and this doesn't have any audio, so I can do that. But I'll go there and then I'll kind of narrate it. So these guys that have been doing this, have been launching anvils. They've been doing it for about 50 years. I talked to them while they were setting up, and they were the blacksmiths over at the Luray Caverns. There's a blacksmith living history exhibit, and I think they may have done work for the caves themselves. Anyway, and so they when they first started doing this, they didn't know exactly the ratio of black, because it's black powder and caulk. And you got to put the right, very specific amounts of both with this anvil. And what it looks like is you take one anvil, put it upside down in the ground, and take the other one, and basically you meet the bases together. But in between is a certain amount of black powder, and you got to know what you're doing. And they said the first time they tried it, they were very conservative because they didn't want to blow it up. So they put a little bit of black powder in, lit it, and then all ran and hid in the bushes, and it ended up going, just lifting it about 2 inches off the deck. So they said, all right, we gotta get more power. But after 50 years, they got it down to where it's safe. If they do it right, there's no way that the anvil is going to go outside of 20 foot radius. And I'll just show you what they have here. Here we go. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
All right, then I'm gonna stop my video. But here we go. This is it's a short video, but it's in slow motion. And it starts right as the wick fires up and shoots off into the air. And it's just a glorious slow motion Looney Tunes style anvil. And I'll tell you, when that thing launched, there was a shockwave that went through the crowd. It was, you felt it in your guts. And I just think it's so cool.
It is very Wile E. Coyote, though.
Which is, to be honest, I mean, that's my favorite. That's the main inspiration for everything I do in life is Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. And so that was a wonderful event to be invited to, and I'm going to revisit that hopefully in 2022. But I'll also, if you don't mind me showing the photos from the Mongolian New Year.
No, please.
And I can kind of narrate these. So this is in that gym. All right, here we go. All right. Am I still with you?
Yep.
All right. So let's try that again. Okay. This is the group of men constructing the yurt in a gym. You can see the climbing rope in the background there. And they kind of made a half yurt, and they dressed in traditional clothing and had traditional suites. They're all about the suites and hanging out and playing games. And I love the style. You know, you got to give these guys props for the wide brimmed hat and the proper dress. It was very segregated. It was a lot of men hanging out with men, women hanging out with women. And these guys were all speaking. They were speaking Mongolian. There was a kind of a domino game where you launch it with your fingers, and it's kind of like dominoes plus darts. They stacked up targets in the corner, and but you can see the basketball hoop and the logo. And this is where I met Monkai Erdenbat, who became a master to these young contortionists in our program. The thing is, this is the proper time to start training for contortion. You have to start when typically girls need to start when they're about between the ages of 5 and 8, because that's when they're learning the flexibility and they still have that range of motion. But it's a demanding art form, but it's pretty impressive. And then, of course, the wrestling, which was just absolutely wild. And I'll tell you a story about this. I was, you can see he's gripping the other guy's hand. The fighter in red is just digging his thumb into the other guy's hand, because the rule to this wrestling is the first one who hits the ground loses. So you're trying to inflict pain and throw the bodies around. And I'm watching this. I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines, and you can see in the background here there are these folding tables. And during one of the fights, I'm sitting back there making pictures, and one of the fighters throws the other fighter into the table, knocking all of the hot tea and I believe it was a cookie, one of those big cookie trays, onto the woman who was sitting there. And I felt so bad. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't me, but I'm also it was alarming because it was hot. She was fine. She wasn't scalded. She was wearing a coat that saved her. But my goodness, they were not holding back. This was not an exhibition match, So you see some of that, the big guys. And you see the yurt in the background there. It's kind of a half yurt, but it's a traditional movable structure. And you can see just the force. It's pretty amazing. And there's some traditional dance. I didn't quite get to talk to these folks because I was talking to Monkai about the contortion. And And she actually, Monkai performed at the Richmond Folk Festival in 2018, I believe. And that was a pretty amazing set. So that's just a selection of photos from there. But it was one of those times I just felt wonderfully out of sorts, you know?
Well, do you have any other videos, Pat, or was that the end of your showcase?
I've got one other if you want to see it. It's a song. So something that we've done at festivals and something that's kind of a mainstay of Virginia folk life are the workshops that we do at festivals. And that's getting a number of musicians on stage based around an instrument or a style or vocal workshop or religious music, and you look at it kind of across the spectrum. Mm-hmm. And I've chosen kind of a narrow one. Perhaps I'm playing too much to a Southwest Virginia audience, but it's a flat pickers workshop. Mm-hmm. And in this video, I want to show it because not only do you have, I'll tell you to watch for a couple things. First, it's you've got a young Presley Barker who was recently on American Idol. And you see him as a young man. This is 6 years ago now, sitting next to his friend Wayne Henderson, whose birthday is today. So happy birthday, Wayne Henderson, down the road. I don't think he's on here, but he's a famous luthier. And in addition to that, you have Danny Nicely on the panel. And in this particular clip that I'm going to show, there's an equipment malfunction and that's something you have to deal with at festivals too. If something happens that's a little bit wonky, you got to deal with it. And how he recovers, watch, I think it's in the second round of solos, he really pulls it out. And so I'm going to share that if you're all right with it. This is from the Richmond Folk Festival.
I think that'll be a good one.
Great. This is Richmond Folk Festival in 2015.
I don't know what, I don't sing too much.
Just play, then I'll stop asking you to sing.
We could do a little of that Deep Ellum blues, maybe. We'll do it a little different version than we played earlier today. When you go down to Deep Ellum, put your money in your shoes. With mine in Deep Ellum, they got those Deep Ellum blues. Sweet mama, your daddy's got them Deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got them Deep Ellum blues. Dig it, Wayne. Preacher preached the Bible through and through. He went down in Deep Ellum, now his preaching days are through. Sweet mama, your daddy's got them Deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, you know your daddy's got them Deep Ellum blues. Tell him about it, Josh. Ellum, just have a little fun. You better have your $15 when the policeman comes. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got them Deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got them Deep Ellum blues. some money in your shoes. Don't mind the deep Ellum, got those deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, daddy's got them deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got them deep Ellum blues. Oh, sweet mama, your daddy's got them deep Ellum blues.
Hey, how about Reggie Harris? Very nicely. Thank you. Josh Pickett.
Not bad, eh?
But that was cool.
Yeah. You saw Danny accidentally knock the mic out of the slot and just picked it up and decided to do an open string solo, which I mean, if anybody's going to do that and get away with it, it's going to be Danny Nicely, who's one of the best pickers around, hands down on any instrument I've ever seen. So that's kind of what I brought. That's all that I've prepared for the night as far as video clips. But I'm happy to field any questions. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'll just reiterate that if anyone has any questions that they would like to share with us for Pat, please put them into the chat. And while we're waiting for people to think, I have a quick question about the Mongolian festival that sort of occurred to me. Because it looks like with that one that it was mostly Mongolian participants. So I'm guessing that some of these festivals are really very community driven within their own communities, as opposed to becoming a tourist thing like, the Gaelic Soul Fiddlers Convention. You'll have obviously the musician community there, but you'll also have a bunch of people who are coming there who aren't musicians, who are there to listen to the music. So there must be a dichotomy, I guess, between those two types of things.
There is. And I think that, that Mongolian festival was mostly for the Mongolian population, but at the same time, you had the Cambodian New Year celebration, I think that same year, and that was just over the line in Maryland. But that was way more of a public festival. You had people there to practice traditions. You had traditional dancing, costuming, all that beautiful, intricate work. But then you had, sugarcane juice vendors and not quite carnival games, but it was, and I got to tell you that sugarcane juice was fantastic. I mean, who knew sugar was so delicious? I mean, other than everybody, but it was great. And so you're right. You picked that up right. And with Galax, you do have a lot of people go for the music who don't play a single note.
Yeah.
And I feel like that the Mongolian one was definitely more focused, and I'm not sure that that's going to be expanded. I think that it's for the community.
Right. So Tony, I've been sort of keeping an eye on the chat, but I don't know if you've seen anything up there for questions or comments.
Yeah, I don't see any comments or questions coming in right now, but I do have a question for Pat. First, I got to say, I really enjoyed all of your clips that you've shared tonight, especially, okay, you did steel drums, we were tossing an anvil up into the sky, and then the ramp. So 3 really crazy good things there. I really enjoyed that. And Renee actually touched on the question I had written down. I wasn't sure about the Mongolian festival being kind of this closed event or not. So I'm glad that she caught that and you expanded on that. But Pat, why is it important to document so much of these traditions via film and, video, film, and photographs? Why is it so important for you to document that? I know you're a photographer, filmmaker, especially here in the Appalachian region. It's so accessible for other people to be able to see things that are in other places. So just kind of was wondering your thoughts on that.
Well, thanks for the question, Tony. And it just so happens, those are the tools that I work with, for photo and video. And I think it's very important to have a visual record. But you also need that audio documentation too. It all kind of feeds into that preservation. You kind of, I feel like it's hard to move forward and progress without knowing what came before, without having an eye to the past, without having, you want to do your homework. You want to find out what's been done before you fly off the handle. And that's with so many things, but with culture, with these kind of traditions, it's, you might not, I feel like, how do I put this? I feel like there are many traditions that are passed down from generation to generation that might not seem like something special to the people who are involved. It is something special, but it's like, well, this is what we do. This is what we do. It's how we've always done it. I've heard those phrases again and again. This is what we do. This is how we've always done it. And, recording it and documenting it, I think allows fresh eyes to take it in and to, recognize genius, to recognize how powerful these traditions are, where they are with the people who do them. And so to have that, I think hopefully my goal is to bolster it, is to say, yes, here's who does it. Here's where they do it. This is why it's important. Pay attention. And so that's why I think it's important. And I hope that makes sense. I hope it doesn't come across too crass,
And I think what's probably really interesting about the documentary process too is that you're often documenting some very old traditions, but there's a lot of innovation going on at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's not just a stagnant thing of this is something from the past that's staying exactly the same.
What I love about that is a couple years ago, Galax, there was a young girl who was on youth night. It was a Monday, and she was going to town on Orange Blossom Special in a way that I've never heard it. And I said, "You're really playing that?" She's standing there with her mom. I said, "Wow, where'd you learn how to play like that?" And she just casually throws out there, "Oh, YouTube." And it's like, I never thought about it, but this 10-year-old girl is such a digital native that she goes onto YouTube and you can see these videos from some of the masters and see, you have a window right there. And she was able to learn the basics and learn the traditional styles. And then at 10 years old, kind of realized she wanted to adapt it herself. So I want to know what she does in 20 years.
Yeah.
But I saw that one particular innovation that she found on her own and grasped for. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So that, yet again, that's why documentation is important. It's out there and it's a platform to innovate off of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so accessible for everyone now. I just, even 10 years ago, I feel like I wasn't using YouTube that much 10 years ago. And now I could probably fix a car if I needed to, really. I mean, I'm that confident. Yeah. But also, Pat, I was wondering, do you have a list of some of the festivals that you've talked about today? I think that might be really helpful to share with some people that, have tuned or that are listening. And it would be really interesting to just have an awesome list of all of these festivals in Virginia, or maybe if they're located somewhere online that was easy to get to.
It's funny. I do not have a list of those. It's all kind of word of mouth, and it's, there are still some festivals that I heard about that I haven't been to that I'd love to go to. And so what I tend to do is, look around on Virginia Tourism Corporation and see what they have going. But I also see what my friends are doing. I try to make friends wherever I go, and I try to see what they're getting excited about. And that's, that's how I learned about the Mothman Festival, and that's how I learned about, something I want to go to that's not quite a festival. There's a rodeo down around I think it's around Dant, and I'd like to get down there and see what that's all about. So
I did, when you were talking, Pat, I did write down festival road trip because I was thinking I need to just look up as many festivals as possible and plan like little weekend jaunts to go see some of them.
That's what a lot of people do, and I think now that I'm fully vaxxed and all the way out. And I think I'm going to hop in the Buick and make that happen.
And we did get another question that just came in from Natalie. She says, what is one of your favorite, most memorable experience in your work?
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. I think one of the best things, it was at a festival, and it was while I was shooting the Fiddlers Convention. And, you know, at the Galax Old Fiddlers Convention, you know as well as I do, it kind of branches out into like neighborhoods and the camps. You know, you say, oh, I'm going down to Bobville, or I'm going to the City of Lights, or did you see this thing near the tennis courts or whatever? And there was, I think there were actually flyers about a record release party, like a CD release party that was going to happen at, I forget whose camp it was, but they're like, it's going to be, 1 a.m. record release for Rex McGee, the Cripple Crunk album. And I said, well, yeah, I want to see that. And so I ended up following everybody over to the campsite where it was Rex and Nate Leith and Danny Nicely, and I think maybe Will Lee was there. And they were all playing under a teepee of Christmas lights. And so I'm standing there feeling the dew, like kind of, because you can feel it when the temperature shifts in the high summer, and you're feeling all the moisture come in and all the fog settling, and it's 1, 2 in the morning, something like that. I'm with a bunch of people watching this most incredible, weird, I don't even know what you'd call that, funky old time fusion, like whatever Rex does, because he's a madman and I love him and I love his music. And I was standing there taking it in, and I took a couple pictures, but I couldn't, at that point, I didn't have the video capabilities to record in such low light. And I'm kind of glad that I wasn't able to record it, because it was an experience that I just said, I'm going to let myself have this as an appreciator of music. And that was one of the very best times, and one of the most, that was very special. It holds a special spot right here. So yeah, that's what makes this all worthwhile, getting out and having those experiences, those one of a kind, unreplaceable, unreproducible experiences. That was what that was.
That sounds pretty cool. And like you said, just sometimes not being able to take pictures or video allows you to be in the moment and just get so much out of it.
And I would actually, that's something that I would recommend, that if you're going to some of these festivals, bring a camera, sure, make pictures, sure, but give yourself room to experience and soak it in, because why else are we here? Are we here to make pictures, or are we here to experience these amazing living traditions with some amazing people? And that's what I'm about.
Yeah. Well, that's very good advice. And, Pat, this has been such an interesting conversation. Before we go, is there anything that you want to tell us coming up at Virginia Folklife that people should be following and paying attention to for the future?
Oh, certainly. We have the 2022, that's kind of hard to say, 21-22 Virginia Folklife apprenticeship class. And we'll be announcing in the next, hopefully, week or two, our full class. And I'm excited. I know there's some amazing talent. There's some surprises. And the thing is, we can't guarantee safety for the showcase. So this year we're putting that on pause. But what I will be doing is I will be making a film of the apprenticeship class this year, and hopefully in 2022 we'll be able to get together and screen it and meet the masters and apprentices. And I'm not sure where that's going to be, but that's something that we're going to be moving towards. So that's coming up. We have the Uncovered from the Vault series, and that's going to be the last Tuesday of May. We'll be, I don't have it quite nailed down, but I have some people I want to talk to, and I think it's going to be really nice. And then, of course, the festivals. I mean, May 16th is the Ramp Festival coming up, and I'm planning on going to that. I think the National Folk Festival is happening in Salisbury, Maryland. I saw that is confirmed. That's in September. And that's good. I mean, that means that there's music starting to happen. So that makes me happy, and that's something we're going to be heavily involved with.
Good. Well, and for those of you who don't know, David Winship put in the chat that the Ramp Festival, like Pat said, it is May 16th, which is Sunday. It's 11 to 5 at the Mount Rogers Fire Hall on Route 58. $5. You can find out more about it on the Grayson County, Virginia Tourism page on Facebook. There's ramp eating at 4:30, so you can try out some ramps yourself. And it definitely sounds worth doing. That'd be a nice way to get out and about. But thank you again, Pat. We've really enjoyed this. We've gotten lots of enthusiastic comments in the chat, which has been lovely, and people talking about the festivals they're interested in. For those of you in the audience, we really appreciate you being here with us. It really means a lot to see all of you here virtually with us when we can't be in person. Please do keep coming to these virtual speaker series. Like I said earlier, we have a couple coming up that are going to be really great. One with Beth Harrington, the filmmaker, and also one with Tim Duffy, a photographer who does Piedmont blues artists. And like I said, this will be going up on our website in about a week's time, a recording of this. And we have recordings of our past virtual speaker series. And finally, we will be sending out a short survey to all of you in the next couple of days, just asking you to give us your feedback on this program and things that you'd like to see in the future, because we will keep doing this. So thank you for being here with us. And thank you again, Pat. We've loved talking to you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Renee. I'm honored. And also, thanks for the tip on the Woodburger Festival. I'm going down.
And maybe you'll be able to screen your apprentices here at the museum later. We'd be up for it.
I'm into it. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you. Have a good night.